There are 6 specific reasons why people hate you, and none of them are your fault. It's not about what you did, it's about what you trigger in them just by existing, what you represent, what you make them face about themselves that they'd rather ignore. And by watching this video till the end, you'll finally understand why their hate was never yours to carry. Before we start, like the video and subscribe to LifeBased for more insights about the patterns shaping your life and relationships. Let's get into it. The first reason people might hate you is because you remind them of what they're not. When someone looks at you, they might see qualities they wish they had. Confidence, success, happiness, peace. And your presence becomes a mirror. It shows them their own perceived failures, their own shortcomings, the gap between who they are and who they wish they were. And that's uncomfortable because it forces them to face something about themselves they'd rather ignore. So instead of dealing with that discomfort, instead of working on themselves, they direct that feeling outward toward you. They convince themselves that you're the problem, that there's something wrong with you, that you're arrogant or fake or undeserving, when really you're just living in a way that highlights what they're not doing in their own life. You're not trying to make them feel bad, you're just being yourself. But to someone who's struggling with who they are, that's enough. Your existence becomes a reminder of their own dissatisfaction. And instead of using that as motivation, they turn it into hate. They make you the problem so they don't have to face their own. Because the issue isn't what you're doing, it's what they're not doing for themselves. The second reason is that you trigger their insecurities. Everyone has insecurities, things they're sensitive about, areas where they don't feel good enough. And when you show up in a way that touches on those specific insecurities, even unintentionally, it creates a reaction. Maybe you're naturally outgoing and they've always felt socially awkward. Maybe you're doing well in your career and they feel stuck in theirs. Maybe you have close friendships and they feel lonely. Maybe you're comfortable in your own skin and they've never felt that way. Whatever it is, something about you presses on a wound they already have, and instead of acknowledging that wound, they blame you for making them feel it. You're not doing anything to them, you're just existing, but your existence reminds them of something they don't like about themselves, and that's painful, so they project that pain onto you. They turn you into the enemy because it's easier to hate you than to face their own insecurity. And the more secure you seem in the area where they feel insecure, the stronger the hate becomes. You didn't create their insecurity. You're not responsible for healing it. And you shouldn't have to make yourself smaller to make them comfortable. Their insecurity is their work to do, not yours to manage. And their hate is just a sign that they're not doing that work. Third, you have something they want. This is jealousy disguised as hate. They want your life, your opportunities, your relationships, your success, your ease, your happiness. And since they can't have it, since they don't know how to get it or aren't willing to do what it takes, they hate you for having it. Jealousy is uncomfortable to admit. It makes you look petty. It makes you feel small. So people rarely call it what it is. Instead, they reframe it. They tell themselves you don't deserve what you have, that you got lucky, that you're fake, that something must be wrong with what you have, because if it were real, they'd have it too. And once they've convinced themselves of that story, the hate feels justified. But it's not about you. It's about them wanting what you have and not being able to get it. And rather than working toward it themselves, rather than being happy for you, they'd prefer to tear you down. Because if they can diminish what you have, if they can convince themselves and others that it's not really that great, then they don't have to feel as bad about not having it. You're allowed to have good things. You're allowed to be happy. You're allowed to succeed. And you don't need to downplay your life to make other people feel better about theirs. Their jealousy is their issue. Their inability to be happy for others is their character flaw, not yours. The fourth reason is that you won't let them control you. Some people need to control others. They need people to comply, to agree, to do what they want, to fit into the role they've assigned. And when you don't, when you set boundaries, when you think for yourself, when you say no, when you make choices they don't approve of, it threatens them. Because if they can't control you, they lose power. They lose the ability to shape you into what makes them comfortable. And that frustrates them. So they try harder. They push, they manipulate, they guilt, they criticize. And when none of that works, when you still won't bend, the frustration turns into hate because you're not playing the role they need you to play. This often shows up with people who are used to others doing what they want, family members who expect you to live a certain way, friends who expect you to be always available, partners who expect you to change yourself for them. And when you refuse, when you stay true to yourself, they can't handle it. Having boundaries doesn't make you wrong. Thinking for yourself doesn't make you difficult. Saying no doesn't make you selfish. You're allowed to live your own life. You're allowed to make your own choices. And people who hate you for that are just showing you that they never cared about the real you. They only cared about the version of you they could control. Fifth, you represent their lost potential. You're living a life they once considered for themselves. You took risks they were too afraid to take. You pursued dreams they gave up on. You made choices they told themselves were impossible. And your success, your happiness, your fulfillment is proof that it was possible, which means they could have done it too, but they didn't. And that's a difficult thing to face because it means their current situation isn't just bad luck or circumstance, it's the result of choices they made, risks they didn't take, dreams they gave up on. And seeing you live out what they gave up on forces them to confront that, to realize they chose safety over possibility, comfort over growth. And now they're watching you live the life they could have had. So instead of being inspired, instead of being happy for you, they resent you. They hate you because you're a walking reminder of their own regret, of the life they didn't choose. And it's easier to hate you, to tell themselves you got lucky or that your life isn't really that great, than to admit that they made choices they now regret. You're allowed to have good things. You're allowed to be happy. You're allowed to succeed. And you don't need to downplay your life to make other people feel better about theirs. Their jealousy is their issue. Their inability to be happy for others is their character flaw, not yours. The sixth reason why people might hate you is because your happiness threatens their misery. Miserable people often need others to be miserable too. It validates their worldview. It confirms that life is hard and people are terrible and happiness is fake. But when you show up happy, genuinely content, thriving, it disrupts that narrative. It suggests that maybe misery isn't inevitable. Maybe it's a choice. Maybe they're choosing it. And that realization is unbearable. So instead of questioning their own misery, instead of wondering if they could change their situation, they attack your happiness. They call it fake. They say you're pretending. They look for cracks. They try to bring you down. Because if they can prove that you're not really happy, if they can drag you down to their level, then they don't have to face the possibility that happiness was available to them all along. You're allowed to be happy. You're allowed to heal. You're allowed to thrive. And you don't need to dim your light to make someone else's darkness feel less lonely. Their misery is a choice they're making, and their hate toward your happiness is just them trying to justify that choice. So stop blaming yourself. Stop wondering what you did wrong, because their hate was never about you being wrong. It was always about you being a mirror, a trigger, a reminder. And you can't control what people see when they look at you. All you can control is how you respond. And the healthiest response is to understand that their hate is their problem, not yours. You're not responsible for managing their feelings about themselves. And the people who are right for you won't make you feel like you need to. If you found this helpful, like the video and subscribe to LifeBased for more insights about the patterns shaping your life and relationships. Thanks for watching.